going to tell you a story. Listen up. The story might help you if you've gone through abuse, you've been bullied by someone, you've had fear, you've had some deep-rooted shame that you've never been able to speak about, you've got embarrassment, you've been carrying this for many years, you don't know how to get it out. It's caused you a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. The reason I want to talk about it is because it's something that I went through for many years, and I didn't know how to seek help, I didn't know how to talk about it, and I did what a lot of people do. I'd kept it bottled up. I was ashamed to talk about it. I felt like I'd be a bad person to speak about it. I struggled to talk about it to myself in my own head, and that's I'm going to talk about my social anxiety. I just wrote something today that's, I think it's very beautiful, it's really honest, I think it'll help a lot of people. I'm working on this sort of thesis. Obviously I want to talk about it because these are the people that I help every week. Every guy that comes to me that does my 6 weeks program, my boot camp, anyone really that's come to me for help with women is usually struggling with social anxiety. Struggling with women is just one area that they're struggling, and it usually comes from something much deeper. And I know this to be true because obviously I've gone through this, and becoming a teacher and really, you know, being honest and spending quite a few years on personal development, counselling myself, of course helping others, understanding this problem at a deep level. Most men that come to me have had a bad relationship with their father, or a disruptive relationship with their mother, or someone who's close to them, and that's really where social anxiety was linked. So I might just quote for some notes here just to help me explain, because I've written something, and I've written how my social anxiety was caused. My social anxiety was caused by my father, my dad. I was absolutely terrified of the man for years. As you may know if you follow my stuff, I only confronted my dad, I think it's a couple of months ago, about the way he treated me. I'm no longer scared of him anymore, but for years I was so petrified of my own dad, so you can probably imagine that. And yeah, it made me, it affected my whole confidence. It affected every area. It affected my relationships with people. I couldn't trust anyone. I especially didn't trust men, because I didn't trust my own dad. Even though I'd had a great relationship with my mum, I couldn't fully trust women, and I didn't trust myself. And it's a strange thing when you have been abused by a parent, because it creates a lot of confusion, especially, and it's very common with bad parenting or violent parenting, sorry, that the person would sometimes be really nice, really lovely, and then it'd be completely the opposite. And I'll just tell you, just to give you an idea, it's kind of difficult to explain it because I've healed most of the trauma, probably all of it. Anything is probably unconscious, so I feel like I've lost the emotion, so I'm going to explain, I'm going to sympathise if you've been through it. But when my dad would come in a room, I was so afraid, and I wrote this down, I couldn't speak. I was paralysed at the mouth because he was violent towards me. He used to hit me, he used to beat me. He would beat me for pretty much any small reason to beat me, he'd beat me. And my mum would be screaming and begging him to get off me and stop laying into me, and I couldn't fight back, I was too afraid. I couldn't even answer back. And I remember I would piss down my leg, I'd wet myself, I would wee all down my trousers. You know, I was about 16, 17, about 15, 16, 17, and he was just a violent man. He could just turn like that. And I remember, there's so many different incidents, but I remember when he would go out of the house to go to the shop or go to work to a friend, I would get an instant relief. Like I could actually physically breathe, I felt safe, because I got on really well with my mum. When the key would come through the door and he would walk in, huge anxiety, my heart would start beating fast, my hands would shake, I would reposition myself, I would straighten up, my head would go down, my whole social demeanour would change. And I was frightened that it would kill me. I had a fear that one day he was going to murder me, because the beatings were horrific. They were very bad, and I think it was more the verbal abuse that actually hurt me more. And I remember one day I was sitting down in the sitting room. I think my mum was in between the kitchen. We were kind of all openly talking. We were laughing about something, and I said something. I can't remember exactly what I said, but my dad looked at me and said something like, pack it in, behave yourself. You sound like a cunt when you say that. That just crushed me, crushed my confidence, completely hurt me, because I felt that my dad was the symbolised, he felt like God to me. So I felt like everything that he said was the truth. So if he criticised me, it just crushed me. And my mum would always step in and defend me, and then he would shout at my mum, and I'd always be worried that he's going to hurt my mum. And I remember just sitting there and feeling confused, feeling like my dad is a stranger. I'd almost feel like this man's invaded in my house and he's bullying me, and I'm petrified of him, and he's making me feel ashamed for feeling afraid of him. I feel guilty. I feel like I've done something wrong to deserve this. So I'm confused as fuck. There's so much confusion to think, I'm scared of my own dad, I don't trust my dad, I'm frightened he's going to hurt my mum, I'm frightened he's going to kill me. And to be quite frankly, I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to wipe him off the face of the earth, to protect my mum and to relax. I was terrified of him. So I was become a people pleaser, I become a puppet. So when he would ask me a question, I would just say yep. If he was saying something I didn't agree with, I would never disagree with him. I couldn't speak when he was around. The only time I would speak was to agree with him. You say yep, I'd go yep, yes dad, yes dad. That's pretty much all I remember saying in my earlier childhood. Obviously on the flip side, there were times when he could be very nice and he would be nice to me, and I would have these temporary periods of feeling I can trust him, and I'd open up a little bit, but I would purposely, on a very conscious level, I even remember at 15, speak in a language that he would like. So I'd actually speak aggressively and, you know, just on the same language. I remember thinking, I'm not being myself, because I had such a great relationship with my mum, my nan and my family, but I was so frightened of him. I was afraid to speak about him if I was in another friend's house. I remember just feeling that I need to get this out and talk to someone, because I'm so traumatised by how he's treated me, but I was scared to tell a friend in case he would find out I spoke about him and he would kill me. So obviously he didn't kill me, I'm still alive. His intentions weren't to kill me, but that's how much I was afraid of him. And he had such a deep voice, I couldn't make eye contact with him. So for years I struggled to look people in the eye. I was carrying so much shame, so much guilt, so much self-hate, so much hate and anger for him, that it was very difficult to socialise with people. There was so much confusion. I remember just feeling so happy as a kid when I could feel the room was safe. That's probably why I later on became very good with people, because I had such sensitivity as a young kid being around such violence, and I would always know when he was going to attack me, because the energy in the room would change, his breathing would change, and he would pause and just start laying into me. And I remember so many times taking beatings, and as I said, I remember pissing down my leg, and as I'm pissing my leg, just feeling humiliated and worthless in that moment, just feeling that I want to die, I wanted to be dead. I felt so ashamed, I felt so belittled by this man, because I felt that he had all the power over me. Everything he said was the gospel. And it was very common for him to say to me, don't talk like a cunt, you sound like a cunt, you're a useless cunt, you're a mummy's boy. He used to always say that to me, you're a mummy's boy. And sometimes I'd say, no, I'm not. And then he would get in my face, he'd get right in my face like that and he'd say, you try to take me for a cunt? You try to take me for a fucking cunt? You try to take me for a cunt? Yeah? You wanna fuck with me? You wanna mess around me? You take me for a cunt? That's what he used to do to me, to get right up in my face. And I would just be like that. I remember just bending over and him hitting my hands and laying this, me just covering up. And the thing was, I didn't like the beatings, but I was more afraid of the vocal aggressiveness in his voice, the energy of the room, the whole house would just, you couldn't hear a pin drop, the fear that this man put in me and the terror. And he made me frightened of men. I was really frightened of men. I was terrified, and it made me very violent. There was no doubt in my mind that from that day forward, from those weeks, those experiences, there was no way that I could ever fully trust men. And I remember thinking, I would never let a man treat me the way my dad did. So there was a lot of confusion there, and within that confusion, I was also a very nice person. Obviously I was naturally a nice person, but I associated as being nice around my dad as being a weakness, and he always made fun of me. So I became hugely violent, I mean incredibly violent, and such confused psychology, and I was always fighting in school. And I never actually started fights, I never went up and bullied kids, but they would always pick on me. My body language was appalling. I had very, very low self-esteem. I remember when my family members would come around the house, it would be just panic. And I didn't know what social anxiety was at the time, but I felt it. And I would just be so scared. I was ashamed. I was actually ashamed to exist. I had shame walking around my house. When my dad come in the room, I couldn't move unless he said, can you pass me the remote controls, or go outside and go and make some tea. He was always ordering me around and I would do it. And when he was nice to me, I felt so happy. So he was keeping me a prisoner. He was literally bullying me so bad, psychologically, physically. He was controlling me when he wasn't in the room. I was afraid at school. I remember when I'd get bad grades at school, my mum, or if I misbehaved, my mum would, often threaten me and say, I'm going to tell her dad. I would beg my mum, I'd be, please, mum, please, 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 don't tell her, because the beatings, and the shouting was just horrific. I remember him saying to me, Jonathan, come down here, and I'm shaking, my hands are shaking, I'm scared. I'm thinking of calling the police. I'm thinking, can I call someone to beat him up? I don't know anyone who can. He was a very, very strong, capable man. He just looked like when he was angry, the rage, the aggression, it was like a monster, it was like a devil in my house. And I remember just as a kid saying, I was crying after, sitting in my room ashamed, please God help me, please take this man away from me, please stop him from hurting me, please don't let him come back in the room, because he would come upstairs, he would give me a half an hour full blast shouting, you can't, spitting out of his mouth, screaming, and I just was shaking, I couldn't look at him. And then he would walk out, I couldn't move, I was frozen, and then I'd hear him coming upstairs again, I was shaking, I'd jump, I'd just get him ready to cover up from the beatings. He'd come in again and start again. And it was very rare that he apologised, and when he apologised I felt sickened with just, I can't even explain the feeling. It was a feeling in my stomach of wanting to kill myself. I wanted to take my own life. I just didn't want to exist. I felt absolutely worthless. I felt like he made me feel like a complete piece of shit. He made me feel like nothing, no love, like a worthless human being. And then my mum would come over, hug me, I would tell her to get away from me. I would feel confused by my mum trying to give me love after my dad beat the shit out of me. I'm pissing myself, crying, and then he would say, be a man, don't cry, pull yourself together. What's the matter with you? Pull yourself together, wrap up boy, wrap up, be a man, be a man. That's what I got all the time. So I thought, right, I've got to be a man. So when I go to school, all my aggression for my dad, all that shame, the next person who comes near me, sorry to speak guys in such, harsh context, I just thought I'm going to batter the next man that comes near me and tries to bully me, because my own dad's been doing it. And it did happen. People would start on me because I was very unassuming looking, socially awkward, I was skinny. I'm not like I am now, very confident and so forth, glasses, well, my hair's still funny, but people would pick on me because I was damaged. But once I lost it, I'm not proud of it, but I was fucking violent, and I was very dangerous with my hands, and some kids got a real levering from me and it was fear. I hated fighting, I feel sick. Sometimes they got the better of me, but I just remember feeling that I don't deserve to have a happy life. I'm not allowed to be happy, and if I was happy, I'd always feel guilty for being happy after. I always felt there was a catch to it. There was something, this couldn't last. And of course that reflected on my dad's behaviour. But in hindsight, he could be a very nice man. If he won on the horse races, if he got paid at work, if he'd been out with a drink with his friends. And this has got nothing to do with him drinking alcohol, because he was like that without the alcohol, he was like that sober. But if he was in a bad mood and he came home, or even if I looked at him the wrong way in mid-conversation when he was fine, he just could go off the rails and just lose it, smashing things up in the house, screaming. It was just horrendous. A few times my mum would take me out of the house, we'd run, we'd go and stay at my nan's. It was just full of shame, and I just felt I'd never told anyone about it for years. My nan knew, my family knew, everyone was frightened of him. My mum was terrified, I was afraid, my brother was frightened of him, my aunties were afraid of him. I felt so ashamed of my dad. I felt so ashamed to bring anyone around to our house, because we actually was a really good family. My dad is actually, despite all this paper, he was actually a good man. He'd been through a lot in his life, and I'm not going to go into it. I just don't feel right saying that. But yeah, it was. This was going on for many years. This went all the way up till my early 20s. He was doing it. He was bullying me. Even when I moved out and I lived at my nan's, there was a period I didn't speak to him for a year. But I never had the confidence to confront him, because I was ashamed that I was ashamed of my own dad. I was ashamed to be his son. I was ashamed to not live up to his expectations. He wanted me to be a carpenter, but I didn't want to be a carpenter. I didn't want to be a fucking carpenter. I didn't want to be a man down the pub. And I don't mean that in an arrogant, snobby way. I just wanted to be myself. I wanted to be normal. And there was elements of my life that were normal. My dad, he took me to football, he done kind things, but he ruined it all by the violence and the bullying. And he was bullying me in very subtle ways. He was bullying me when there were guests round. He would make fun of me. You know, if he asked me to go and carry out a simple, I remember he would cook, he'd say, "You got to wash up," and he would say it with no respect. He'd go, "Right, I cook, you wash, go and wash up, do it now, hurry up, do it now." That's how he spoke to me. So the panic of, I'm afraid I don't want to make a mistake, and the intent, and this is how he said it: "Do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now." That's how he used to speak to me. So the trauma in me, and I'd go and do the washing up, and then he'd come by, poke me in the head, and he would poke me hard. I remember he used to do this thing with his finger, and this is humiliation. He was doing it on purpose, humiliating me. So he would like hit me around the head like that hard, and it didn't hurt physically, because I've always been very tough. I've been in lots of street fights, and I was always fighting. But it was the shame that he brought on me, that poke, that thud, that shock to the body, and the psychology that your own dad, someone who's supposed to love you and supposed to protect you and take care of you, has got absolutely no respect for you whatsoever. And on the other hand, your mum is so kind, she's the complete opposite. And you're seeing, you know, I'm seeing my friends' dads, and they don't treat their son like that. So it's confusion. Part of me it's probably common in psychology, we protect the person who's bullying us as a way to rationalise how we're being treated and how we're feeling. So I would find ways to blame myself, find ways to let him off the hook. And even when my mum would intervene, I would shout at my mum to stop her blaming him, and it was wrong what he did. It was bang out of order. Of course, years later, he felt very guilty. He tried to apologise in subtle ways. He never had the confidence to actually sit me down and to say sorry, look me in the eye and have a conversation. And for most of my life, I never gave my dad eye contact. Isn't that ironic? A close family member that you love, you're meant to have intimacy with family members. And that's why for years I struggled to look people in the eye. It took me a long time to be able to give eye contact with people, with everyone. So it explains why I had shyness. I developed social anxiety, social phobia, very bad patterns of behaviour. I had violent outbursts of rage, depression. I could be silent for the whole day. If I went round to, I remember when he brought me round to his friends' houses, he would always speak very proud of me. See, it was very strange. It was very manipulative in how he orchestrated it for his own personal validation and gain. They would say, "Oh, all right, Jonathan, oh, your dad's son," and I couldn't speak, and then my dad said, "Oh, he's just quiet." And I got that for many years. I actually felt stupid. I felt like my mum and dad and my family would making fun behind my back. It created so much distrust. I always felt like I was the stupid one. I was the unintelligent one. My dad often used that word a lot. So those words have had a very powerful effect on my psychology. You're stupid. You're a cunt. You're not a man. So I had to react, protect myself, as you do. Developed a lot of protective personalities, and it took me many years before I could start coming out. I started to tell my nan about it because she knew how he was. She knew the way he treated me, my mum. She was never happy about it, but she was so good. And I had a lot of suppressed emotion. I'd never cry around him, although a few times I couldn't help it. But I did my best not to cry, not to show any emotion. I was just like a robot around him. So it was tough. It was tough. And for many years I did want to beat the shit out of him. I wanted to get him back, make him feel the pain that I felt. And so many humiliating situations. Another thing he would do was, he liked doing this, was making me fight people in front of him and telling me that I have to win, and if I don't win, I'm useless. So again, the fear of losing his respect put more pressure on me. And I remember him taking me down around my area in front of everyone. There was a kid that was bullying people, and funny enough, I was always very courageous as a kid, and that hasn't changed to this day. I've always had a lot of courage. I've always been used to violence. I've never liked it. It's something I've lived with for many years, up until obviously the life-changing changes I've made over the last 4 or 5 years, and all the personal development work and the coaching and the whole chasing women thing. But he made me fight this kid, and I didn't want to fight him. I had a lot of fear, a lot of social fear. Everyone was watching around the area. My friend was with me as well, best friend Alex, and he put me in the middle. And because I was frightened of being judged by my dad, I couldn't fight back, and I lost. The kid beat me, and he said some unkind words. He said, "Come upstairs, you've got to train hard the next time." And he said it in such a way where everyone could hear him, and all the girls laughed. And these things sound small, but the heckling of the girls and the laughter, more embarrassment. So I was riddled. It was all over my body language. I used to walk differently. I didn't move the way I move now. Now I'm very secure in myself, very confident. I know exactly who I am. I've obviously achieved amazing things in my life, but for many years I walked with shame. I walked with my head down. I spoke really fast with the anxiety. I really rushed. I couldn't listen properly. I couldn't socialise properly. I was not. Had a lot of definitely caused so much trauma. Only as I got older did I realise how nervous I was. But the family just it was a thing where no one ever said anything, but we all knew, there was a problem. There was a problem with the relationship. And of course, a bad relationship with your father affects your whole life. And I actually felt that I was not allowed to be confident around him, that it would be an insult to show confidence, charisma. I was even afraid to tell him that a girl at school liked me, because I felt that he hated me. He was competitive. He would always put me down. If I said I did something, he'd say I did that when I was younger. So he was very immature. He obviously had a lot of issues himself, very divided, split personalities. And so when I was around people, these patterns of fear carried out. It wouldn't happen with everyone. There's certain individuals that I feel very comfortable with, but any man that resembled his characteristics, and there were so many men that seemed to, I'd get those feelings coming up, that rush of fear and anxiety. And I was in so many fights, and the aggression I had was just on a whole different level. I should have got counselling at the time, but I never did. I bottled this up for years, and I just kept giving him chances and overlooking. Sometimes he would apologise, but very rarely would he, and I never believed it, because he just continued to do it the next time. So I know all about fear. I know all about intimidation. I know all about violence. When I was in primary school, another traumatic experience happened to me. This is about fear. A kid, for no reason, grabbed my head and smashed it through a window. I split my head open. My mum came down the hospital. She was hysterical, and I had to have stitches, and the school didn't do anything. They just let the kid off. So from that time I thought, this is not going to happen no more. Men are going to stop bullying me. And when I went to secondary school, I really developed a reputation of, I was actually bullied, but eventually I was respected in my school. All the kids did, all the white kids, all of the black kids. We had Moroccan kids. We had a very diverse background in school. We said, everyone, don't fuck around Jonathan, because he's fucking crazy, he's a psycho. And I preferred it that way. I wanted people to be frightened of me. I didn't want them coming near me. I didn't want to have to go through what my dad kept doing. So as the years went on, I got into my later 20s. He didn't hit me no more, because he actually couldn't do it, but he still bullied me. He still, in very subtle ways, body language, and I'm going to share some more stuff with you. If I was in the kitchen making tea, standing up, and my dad came out to the kitchen to make coffee as well, I would start shaking. I literally was shaking around my dad. I hid it from him. When I was in a conversation with my mum, because my mum sometimes would be in a bedroom watching film, or she'd be hoovering, and I'd be in a deep conversation with my mum, we'd be laughing and joking, because me and my mum would get on so well. The key would come in the door, or sometimes he'd come in the room, I wouldn't hear him, and I would literally stop talking to my mum. My mum knew what was going on, and I just couldn't move. So He'd go, all right, mate, all right, mush. He'd call me mush, all right, mate. And I'd go, yeah, all right, dad. And I didn't know what to say. I always struggled to speak to him. I was not comfortable. So that's where my social anxiety come from. That's why I struggled with people. I was terrified of people. I didn't realise it till I got older. Of course, I had friends. It sounds like it's a really weird story, my story, because it's like a story of someone who was so bullied, but it is still true. Everything I'm saying is true. I'm missing out on so much stuff. There's too much to mention. But I always had good friends around me. I'm lucky. And they knew as well. They sensed it, because when I would bring people in, I would always tell them to be quiet. But I just remember, yeah, there was so much distrust. There was so much gameplay in the household. It was like it was almost like a theatre show, in the sense of how the dynamics were. How my mum was nice. She was always trying to people please my dad and keep everyone happy. My mum was beautiful. I love my mum. My dad was bullying me, bullying my mum. The house was run by fear, and I knew that wasn't right. I knew that didn't feel right, because I'd felt enough love in my life to realise that it's not right to treat someone like your son like that, and the way he would speak to me, you know, the language, the vile language, you cunt, he would say it, you know, with real venom. You know, pull yourself together. Don't be such a cunt. I'm sorry, my language, guys, right? But I'm sure there's a lot of people watching my videos that have gone through this and feel ashamed. Now, on the flip side, I'm going to tell you how I overcome this, and I changed my life around from a man that was so deeply insecure. I was embarrassed of sex. I was ashamed of my body. I was embarrassed I'm sorry to be so graphic and honest. I feel it's necessary. I was embarrassed to take my willy out. I felt disgusting everywhere, and I was actually quite a handsome kid, you know, as I'm sure you guys can see. But I was, and you know, I wasn't bad looking at all. I was tall, handsome, you know, but I felt damaged on the inside, and I felt so ashamed. And when I would shower at school, when we do PE, I couldn't go in the showers because of the shame that my dad put on me. I didn't want people to see me naked. It's weird, but it affects everything. You feel judged by everything you do. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I didn't like how my face looked. I hated myself. I had self-hate. Can you believe that? It's mad thinking about years ago, so I don't feel like that no more. But it's weird to think I used to be like that. I was a completely different person. I was afraid of conversations with people. I was terrified of sexual intimacy. I was frightened I'd freak out if a woman put a hand on me. I was frightened. And then this went on to things like, so scared of being rejected. I mean, I'm afraid to be just criticised by someone. I was so brittle. I was so emotionally sensitive, and my dad knew I was, and he abused that, because that's the way, I suppose, he got love back from me, from making me afraid. So yeah, I've been through it all. The shame, the embarrassment, the complete feeling of worthlessness, that you've got no right to live, that no one loves you, that you're just a piece of dirt. And the only time I did feel worthy was when he was fucking violent to me, and then he was nice after, because I thought, oh, I've been treated like shit now I deserve to have a bit of cake and watch a film. And I remember one of the things he did to me was really spiteful. During the summer, I would always go out with friends, we'd play football. It was so exciting in my area. It was really exciting. It was a rough area, it's full of violence, but I don't know, I liked it. I found peace in it. But when my mum was doing a morning job or something, and he wasn't working this time, he's like, right, you're not going out all day. Why? Because I said so. Don't answer me back. Do the dishes and go upstairs and wait till your mother gets in. You can go out when your mum gets in. It felt, my mum got back really late, so my friends would ring the bell, and he would go on the intercom and say, no, he's not coming out. And I just would be, it was so hurtful for me, because that was my freedom. I loved going out with my friends and playing football, and he took away my freedom from me. And I just thought, what? I just felt so hurt how a person could treat me like this. And I just thought, why? I'm not a bad kid. I'd never done anything to him. What have I done to deserve this? I never stole from him. I never took drugs. I was never bad in the house. I was actually a good person. I was good. But he obviously was. He was a damaged man. He projected it onto me. So I lived with fear and violence for many years. As I got older, I decided I'm not going to have this no more. I made a decision. It wasn't just about standing up to my dad. It was about standing up to fear and violent men. but not realising that I was a violent man. I was a bully myself. I bullied other people just the way my dad, well, not the way my dad bullied me, not as bad, but I did bully people to keep them away from me. The intentful eye contact that I used. If you look at me closely now, because I can't hide everything, it's been a rough ride, I'm so glad to be here, you'll probably see pain in my eyes, because I do believe, and I noticed that in Mike Tyson's eyes. If you look at Tyson's eyes, as much glory as he's achieved, you will see pain there. That pain is long lasting. And I don't mean that in a sympathetic way. I don't want any sympathy. I'm absolutely blessed. God's blessed me. I'm alive to tell the tale. I turned my life around. And this is what I'm just going to get into, have a little bit of a read about what my dad did for me. Well, my dad is my best teacher. Let's read this. Well, basically, to cut a long story short, the transformative line that my dad said to me that changed my whole life, basically, he was the best day game teacher, because it got me laid with lots of attractive women. It took me out of job seekers allowance, being on benefits, starting my own business, making really good money. He made me become, I want to say this carefully because I don't want to be arrogant, sound like I'm showing off and I'm resentful. I'm just proud. I want to inspire people that have been treated this way. I inspire people all around the world. I've got the joy every week of seeing people's pain being removed and them achieving amazing things. I'm an inspiration. I'm a confident man. You know, I'm very brave, I'm very honest, and I'm very caring, and I'm full of love. That's what my work's about. To cut all of the small talk and the smaller part of the message, which yes, teaching to attract women, but I'm just a man full of love. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I've forgiven my dad. I've forgiven him because he was a good man, and I don't want to go through what he went through. But when I could understand how he was treated and find forgiveness for him through a process of going out into life, but he helped me. The same person who damaged me helped me, and I'm not frightened of men no more. I help men. That's my job. That's what God made me do. That's what my dad made me do. So it's a classic case, and Jeff has spoken about it. Paulo Coelho, alchemy, creating from your pain, and that's what I've done. Transformed, turned my life around. Used fear as a motivation to build courage. So yeah, as I said, my dad was my best teacher. He was my guru. He taught me how to be courageous. He taught me about violence and fear. He taught me how to be successful. So, and this isn't in a resentful, patronizing way, because I spoke to Jeff about this as well, and he said the same. I wouldn't be Johnny Berba without my dad. My dad was my best teacher. There's no way I'd be here. There's no way that I would have, and when I'm saying stuff, it isn't to show off, it's just to show people and inspire them that they can overcome this. They can overcome abuse from a parent, shame, low self-esteem. I slept with many beautiful women. That's why I'm good with women. That's why I am such a good teacher. That's why you guys love my work. You see so much honesty in it, because my work's full of honesty and love. And to get straight to the point, my work isn't about day game. My work isn't about pick-up artistry or going out and meeting women. My work is about teaching men or anyone how to convert or how to overcome or manage fear and to fulfill their dreams. Love, whether it's in dating, whether it's in life, it's all the same, it's all connected, it's all about self-esteem. So that's why I went out on the streets of London and slept with lots of women. I was trying to cope with the pain and the shame that my dad put on me, and it was so good when I could speak about this, because that's when I knew that the healing had been done, because for years I couldn't speak about this. I wouldn't even be able to set a video blog up and speak, get these words out, make this sound. I would feel ashamed or like I've betrayed my dad or gone behind his back, but I don't feel any of that now, because I had a conversation with him. I actually just feel, I feel pure love towards him. That's what I feel. I just feel really sad for that he had to experience that. So I'll tell you this is for the sake of healing. I'll tell you the conversation I had with my dad, because I know there's a lot of men watching this video now who have had father problems. I know how damaged it can be when your dad does this to you. You know, the man who's the centerfold of your world, or your mum. and I'll show you how the conversation was. I can't remember all of it, but I'll just try and do my best. I was on the train in London. I was on the way back to going to Paddington, and I just got this massive urge to, I knew I had to go and speak to my dad. What was interesting is, I did feel anxiety on the train, because it was, you got to remember, this is something that for 30 years I've been keeping close to my chest. And you know, all of the going out getting laid, and all of the becoming successful, and the striving and the diving and ducking and the wheeling, I knew I had to go and talk to him. I'd never felt so confident, so calm. I went to my house, pressed the buzzer, my mum answered. She was surprised to see me. Oh, what are you doing here? She got nervous because she sensed it. She just knew. I said, where's Dad? I want to go and have a word with Dad. She goes, why? I said, I just want to have a chat with him, see how he's doing. So I walked into the sitting room, and he was lying down because he'd finished probably a day at work. He works a lot. And he got up and he went, oh, hello mate, all right? And I paused, and I looked him straight in the eye, and I was calm, and I said, you damaged me, Dad. And for a few seconds he was shocked. He couldn't believe it. He was processing it. He said, what? I said, you damaged me, you bullied me, you made me frightened of men, you made me insecure, he was violent towards me. And he said, then he sat down, and he said, sit down, and I sat down. And I said it in the whole time, because I'm not frightened of him no more. I was calm when I said it. I was as calm as I am now, as cool as ice. He said, I've been through this before, you know. I thought you got over this. I said, no. I said, you made me afraid. You made me frightened of you. I couldn't be myself. You made me violent. You made me batter other men. I battered other men because of what you did to me. As a matter of fact, then he said, oh, you know, I wanted to make a man out of you. I said, oh, don't worry about that. I said, you fucking made a man out of me. I didn't want you soft. I didn't want you to be whatever. He said something like that, and I said, oh, just in case. I said, and sorry my language, guys. I do apologise. Just referencing what I said, and I said, I fucked a lot of women as well. Just in case you thought I was gay, or you know, you thought I wasn't being a man. So I did that as well. He went, oh, you know, he tried to, you know, in psychology it's commonly tried to rationalise it, and I said, but I want you to know, I'm not frightened of you no more, and I forgive you. And it just took the wind out of him, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't afraid of him no more in that moment. I honestly feel, you can beg to differ, that I brought God into the room with me. I felt like there was a presence with me. It was so strong. I didn't bring fear into the room. I brought something much stronger, much more potent. I brought love into the room, because love's stronger than fear. I brought God into the room. And I've made a quote from the Bible, because you know, we're Christians by faith. And I said, Dad, remember you said to me, you used to talk to me about God, but you didn't follow it. So I said, and I pointed, I said, the way you treat the least of you is the way you treat yourself. The way you treat your son is the way you treat you, and you didn't treat me very well. He just couldn't believe it. And then we had a further conversation. I said, go on, I'll let you speak. And he tried to explain that for him this is a normal way, and I said, you're never going to do that to me again. And I want you to know I'm not frightened of you. He goes, oh, I don't want you to be frightened. I said, I'm not bothered about what you want. I'm just telling you I'm not frightened of you no more, and I don't need to agree with you. I don't agree with you. Then he tried to justify violence. I said, violent men are insecure. He said, oh, I don't agree with that. I said, well, I don't have to agree with you. I said, they are, because I was a violent man. I used to batter other men, and it didn't make me feel good. And there was absolutely no love there. It comes from insecurity. A secure man doesn't go around bullying men. When there's a need to bully people, that's because you're not happy with yourself. And I laughed. And I think this is common. I've heard in Zen Buddhism, this is weird to say this, but I felt, I don't know, I'm just going to say, I felt enlightened in that moment. I'd already had an awakening before that. I've had many moments in my life feeling like this felt like complete bliss. It just felt so truthful, so honest. It felt I was cleansed of all my shame. And I've said it before, I couldn't have done this work without Jeff's help, because I wanted to do this kindly. You know, I didn't want to obliterate him and smash his face in, because there's, you know, it's tempting over the years to do that, but I wasn't going to lower myself to that level. And I generally felt compassion for him because I know what a good person he is. I know that that's not his true self, but I also had to tell him it wasn't right, and I had to undo all of the shame and the the pain that he'd caused me, because getting laid with lots of women, making money, wasn't taking it away. So that's why I'm a good teacher. That's why my work's really good. That's why people resonate. That's why people do so well on my courses, because it's honest what I'm teaching, and it comes from a place of truth and experience. As I've said it before, you can't teach people how to overcome trauma, bullying, violence, abuse, low self-esteem, lack of love, lack of confidence if you haven't gone through it and made the change as well. So that's why I thank God. That's why I'm in a great place. That's why I've got such a good relationship with myself, because I was able to stand up to bullying, stand up to fear, and it's regardless of my dad. And the way I did that was finding love in my life. I'm not talking about soppy love, even though I like to get soppy and I love falling in love with a woman, but I learned how to, what Jeff had spoken about in his videos, because his story is very similar to mine in what he'd went through. If not, his one was he'd been harsher than mine, but very similar parallels. And I work with so many men that have had a similar upbringing to me. Their father was strict on them, and that is the reason why they're lacking. Of course you're going to lack confidence of women. So I was able to heal the pain with my father, enlighten myself, forgive him, make sense of everything I've been through, and to become a great teacher. Because before I was a good teacher, and this is what my message is about, my whole YouTube channel, I dedicated my whole life to helping frightened men. That's what I'm here to do. And I help frightened men to improve their relationships, and in doing so they get better at attracting women and developing wholesome relationships. And this healing work can only be done through honesty, integrity, and there is nothing soft about it. It takes the most courageous person. So now I don't feel ashamed, I don't feel embarrassed, I just feel really comfortable, really good. Of course I get days, we all get days where you can get a flashback, but on the whole I feel really good, and I'm here sharing it with the world. And I really hope that I can inspire something in you to heal your pain, because I know what it's like to go from years of hiding and having a separate personality and pretending and being in pain and having depression. But you don't have to be a victim, and I'm not a victim no more. I'm a very beautiful man in a very good position in life, and I'm gonna grow this message massive and do really big things. So that's my story. That's what I wanted to share with you. God instructed me to share this. It's not been a video I've been comfortable about doing. I've got to be honest. I wasn't in a hurry to do this, but I feel good. I feel that you need to hear this. So abuse is abuse at the end of the day, whether you're a man, girl, kid. And the way we heal it is with love. It's a process. It's a deep, deep personal inquiry and confronting the person and doing it in a kind way. So yeah. So I know all about fear, but most importantly, I know about love. So thank you for listening. I hope that's going to help.